Chapter 3, Automatic. One of the biggest obstacles that I encountered while making the transition from sampling other people's music to writing all the music myself was the authenticity of the sounds that I used. Prior to 2005, I made all of my beats on a sampling drum machine called the MPC 2000 and never had to question the sound quality of anything I used. For example, I never had to worry about whether a piano I sampled sounded like a real piano because I sampled it from a real pianist who did all the work for me. The record was already recorded, mixed, and engineered to sound as perfect as possible. Sampling technology produces an exact copy of the record, so I never had to spend any time worrying about sound quality. As a result, I was always able to start on a level playing field. Unfortunately, that firm footing was gone once I stopped sampling and entered the realm of software synthesizers, also known as soft synths, which is where I was after I switched my beat making over to a program called Reason. Composing was easy with Reason, but the sounds I composed with left a lot to be desired. To put it bluntly, software synthesizers don't sound nearly as good as real synthesizers. And by real synthesizer, I'm referring to a physical keyboard or a synthesizer, not a plugin or a software program. Coming from a world where sampling ensured that everything sounded as authentic as possible and going to a world where every sound needed serious tweaking just to sound decent was a pretty significant transition. This dilemma was the main reason I bought the microKORG synthesizer. My hope was that it would give me better sounds. While I initially struggled with the challenge of creating high-quality sounds, every now and then I would make something I was proud of. Something that was created from scratch but sounded as authentic as anything I would sample off a record. The melody for Automatic was one of those instances. It was originally titled Beat 249. I thought it was dope when I first made it, but I wasn't immediately drawn to use it because the demo version of the beat was significantly slower. It wasn't until I participated in the June 2009 Red Bull producer event in Minneapolis that the beat really grabbed me. The goal of the conference was to have each group of MCs and producers that they paired up write, record, and perform a song by the end of the day. I was paired up with Minneapolis MC Manifest and played him over 20 beats that day, including Beat 249. Although he didn't choose it, he responded positively to it, which suddenly made it sound different to me. Hearing it blast out of those expensive studio speakers didn't hurt either. I made a mental note to revisit it when I got home. Right before the Red Bull conference in the spring of 2009, we had ended our 3-year residency and weekly hip-hop night, So What Wednesdays. The night was held at Cafe Bourbon Street and named after our friend Damon Dotson, also known as So What, who passed away in August of 2006. Damon was loved by everybody in the Columbus music scene and had a special energy about him that brought people together. We decided that doing a weekly event in his name was the best way of paying tribute to that energy and keeping it alive. The idea for the night was started by Wes Flexner and DJ Detox. I was the host and booked performances there once a month. Detox was the resident DJ. Paz 2, Abyss, and Rare Groove would alternate as guest DJs and played mostly underground hip-hop and classic party music. So What Wednesdays was like having our own personal club for 3 years, which definitely brought out some wild behavior on my part and put me on the fast track towards becoming an alcoholic. But despite the ups and downs, we had a lot of great times. The conclusion of So What Wednesdays in 2009 left a huge void in my social life, further complicated by the fact that I was single again after ending a serious relationship I was in for several months. I was trying to adjust to being at home more and not going out every night drinking or promoting shows, but it was difficult. Although being at home was a welcome change, I didn't know what to do with my time and wasn't using it constructively yet. I hadn't written a rhyme or a song in 6 months and had hit a wall with the album. I was frustrated with my progress and felt like I couldn't create the sound that I heard so clearly in my head. The first draft of Adventures in Counterculture that I finished in 2008 just wasn't where I wanted it to be. Frustrated that I didn't have all the pieces I needed to fix it, I said, fuck music, and decided to take a vacation. I needed a serious change of scenery, and Vancouver was my destination. I had been to Vancouver many times, 5 times on tour and twice on vacation, and considered it one of the most beautiful and relaxing places I had ever been. I brought the manual for my microKORG that I was barely using at the time, Reason, and my MIDI keyboard along for the trip, just in case I wanted to make beats and read while I was there. Since I was staying with the woman that I was seeing at the time, the only cost I incurred was my airfare and whatever I spent on food and entertainment. Her apartment was 5 or 6 blocks from downtown, had a huge window that overlooked the entire city, and was only 2 blocks from the beach. As far as I was concerned, I was in heaven. I didn't care about music, touring, my career, or making money. All I cared about was relaxing. Oddly enough, when I let go of all the expectations and personal problems that were stifling my creativity, my desire to make music returned. I decided to connect all my production equipment in the kitchen while my host was at work. Then I made changes to the beat I had bookmarked at the Red Bull event and finally read the microKORG manual that I had put off for so long. The word automatic had been in my head for months. It was probably because I watched the movie Purple Rain no less than 50 times that spring and revisited a lot of Prince's back catalog. The song Automatic from his album 1999 was a childhood favorite. I felt like the beat was telling me to use the word automatic, so I experimented with the chorus during one of my daily walks around Vancouver. When I got back to her apartment, I tried my chorus idea to beat 249, and it worked perfectly. The beat previously known as beat 249 was now automatic. Since I hadn't written a rhyme in at least 6 months, everything I was going through came out. I was vacationing in a foreign country with a pretty girl. I just straightened out a situation where the IRS lost one of my tax returns, and I wasn't pressed about anything music related. My 6-month musical slump was over. Everything around me was brand new, and I was finally creating something progressive enough to continue working on my album. In the second verse, I touched on the struggle of trying to make a soft synth sound like a sample because that was my entire goal. To learn how to make original beats that had the depth of sampled beats. Not just because it sounded better to me, but also because I knew that my change of direction would be shocking to some of the people who listened to my music for years and expected a certain sound. My fans would only see the finished product and not the 5-year process that created it. If my change didn't appear gradual, then the potential to fail was very high. Unfortunately, doing music that represented a person who I no longer was didn't seem like an option. If I failed, I could still look in the mirror and be proud of myself for doing what was in my heart. I wrote Automatic my first day in Vancouver and recorded it after I got back to Columbus. I would write and record around 30 new songs over the next 6 months, just as many as I recorded during the entire first 3 years of working on Adventures in Counterculture. To say the least, I was in the zone again. While it wasn't my original intent, the 6-month break I took from music allowed me to emotionally disconnect from the first draft of Adventures in Counterculture, which I wasn't 100% happy with at the time. I knew it needed changes, but it was difficult because I was too emotionally attached to the music. Fortunately, by the time I got home from vacation, I could see my songs for what they really were. Some were good enough to make the album, and others had to be cut. And no amount of emotional attachment was going to change that. I guess the best thing that ever happened to Adventures in Counterculture was taking a break from Adventures in Counterculture.